Hey, this is Keith Ellison coming to you from the studios of the Democratic National Committee with Democrats Live. We come to you every week and present to you Democrats that are doing awesome things, how we are fighting for the American people every single day. You know, I'm really thrilled to have you with me here today, Hakeem. How you doing, my friend?
Good to be here.
Congressman Hakeem Jeffries from
Brooklyn,
New York. That's right. But you know, before we really get into it, Hakeem, we got a special guest who I want everybody to meet. This is a brand new, newly minted winner for the Democratic cause. Kevin Cavanaugh won a seat in Manchester, New Hampshire just Tuesday, and we want you all to meet Kevin Cavanaugh. He is going to be an awesome representative, and he comes to us as a business representative for IBEW for many, many years. So he has the labor chops. He's fighting for working people every day, and we're very, very proud of him. But before we introduce Kevin, let me just say we are live. We are streaming live at live.democrats.org, where people can also go to sign up. You can take action and you can donate. Yes, you can. And we want you to do that. And we also want you to get involved in Resistance Summer, which is going on just great. We're midway through it, and we're very, very happy with your participation. And I want you to know you can get more information if you type the word resist at 43367. So type resist at 43367 and then text in the word resist. And then also you can download our app, which is Knock 10, Knock 10. And so, hey, Hakeem, help me introduce Kevin Cavanaugh, winner of the Democratic election in New Hampshire just on Tuesday. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Hakeem. You know,
how does it feel?
I can't even describe it. It's still just a whirlwind of emotion. You know, I've got to tell you that whole day Tuesday, you just have this knot in your stomach. Like you don't know if you're going to be able to keep everything in your stomach. I guess, but it was awesome, and just the whole process of going through the 3 months, especially it's so compact. It's a sprint with the special election, and the support we got from people. So many different groups and so many people that came out to volunteer and knock doors, make phone calls. Keith, you were making phone calls. Thank you so much.
That's right.
And, it's overwhelming to me. It's absolutely overwhelming.
So, you know, Kevin, you have helped a lot of other candidates get in office, but now you're doing it yourself. What made you feel like this was the moment to step up, put your name on a lawn sign, and ask your neighbors to cast a vote for you?
Well, the reason we had this special election is the passing of Scott McGilvery, who held that seat for a short 3 months. I knew him well, and another labor leader. He was an educator, head of the New Hampshire NEA. He was super. And so many stories you heard about him, and to continue his message going forward, and that's my message. And to be able to do that, that was the final push for me to say, hey, I'm doing this.
Right. And so a lot of people nowadays in this era of Trump and all these little Trumps around the country are thinking maybe, they're looking at the idea that, hey, maybe I never thought I was going to run myself, but maybe now I am. You stepped up to the plate and you won. What's your advice to people who've been thinking about running but haven't quite made up their mind?
Get involved and run. Do it. I get a call, which was overwhelming to me even yesterday, from our international president, Lonnie Stevenson.
That's right.
And we go to these conferences and we push people all the time. Run, get involved, run. I'm 18 months. I'm an alderman in Manchester. I've been involved as a sitting politician, I guess, for 18 months. And it makes me crazy. I was at a golf tournament when I decided to run for alderman, and you're waiting in line to grab your food, and there were two guys in front of me that were firefighters. And they were sitting there just saying, I don't want to get involved with politics at a city level or local level. And I was just scratching my head. You know, this is where you have to get involved. This is what we're going to do to help each other. The local level, the state level, that's exactly, and it is. I mean, hey, for 32 years, I graduated high school when I was 20, I got a job. I don't have an education. I need the protection. I need the job growth, the workforce development, and people just really grabbed onto that idea with this, I think, because I wasn't knocking on doors telling them how we're going to change everything. It's just we talked about everyday problems we face as working American. Middle Americans, whether you're union or not, we were out there talking to them. We talked about health care. We talked about working conditions, pensions, 401ks, and everyone can relate to that. And I think it really grabbed onto people. And they're tired of seeing the fighting. They're tired of seeing it. We can reach across. We can work together. We can disagree, but let's try to work together if we can in areas to make people better.
Kevin Cavanaugh, your fellow Democrats are proud of you, man, and we want to say thank you for running, thank you for winning, and we're going to be working quite a bit together, all right?
Let's keep this rolling all across this country. Let's keep this rolling, and I'm humbled by the thought. I'm just in the right spot at the right time, but it's not me, but let's keep this rolling and right across the country, and we've got to take it back from the local and state level, and I can't thank you guys and everyone else enough for everything everyone did for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, Kevin Cavanaugh, everybody. Hey, be proud of Kevin Cavanaugh. He just won his race. Also, Annette Tadeo in Florida. She won her race. She's gonna have a general in Florida in just a few weeks. But you're in, and we're proud of that. So thank you again, Kevin. Take good care, my friend.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Hakeem Jeffries, you used to be a state legislator, is that right?
I was a state legislator for 6 years in the New York State Assembly.
Tell me how important it is for a member of Congress, the federal legislature, to be in connection with state legislators, with city officials.
Well, so much happens at the state and local level that impacts the day-to-day livelihood of the people you also represent in Congress, that making sure that everyone is rowing in the same direction wherever and whenever possible is incredibly significant. And in New York, we have a Democratic mayor, Democratic city council, Democratic governor at the state level, Democratic assembly. We're working on making sure that that Senate becomes Democratic.
The
and
IDC thing.
Your voice in that fight has been incredibly important, and the congressional delegation in New York is working to turn that situation around. But we still, at the state and local level, have the opportunity to play offense.
Right.
And what I've said to folks back at home is that we're playing defense here in Washington, D.C., and we're going to continue to do so to make sure that Republicans, the Trump administration, folks in the House and the Senate who've been acting like, wholly owned subsidiaries of the president, not members of a separate and co-equal branch of government. We're going to continue to fight as hard as we can to stop them from doing bad things, but we're playing defense. But back at home, there's an opportunity for folks at the state and local level to advance many of the priorities that are important to us in terms of policies that will change lives and play offense. And that's why staying in close contact is incredibly significant.
Well, you know, Hakeem, I am so impressed with your ability to communicate. I mean, for folks who may not know, I personally would say that Hakeem Jeffries is the best public speaker in the House Democratic Caucus.
Now you put a lot of pressure on me.
No, man, you're good, man. And I've given a decent speech myself. You know what I mean? So I know when I see one. And so what I want to just ask you is, you've decided to take your ability to communicate ideas, and you ran for a position in the Democratic Caucus, and you're joined there by David Cicilline and Sherry Bustos. Tell the folks about the board that you're on and why you chose to serve the caucus that way.
Well, we're co-chairs of the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, which is the messaging and policy arm to try to articulate the views, the passions, the vision that we have as House Democrats out to the American people in as compelling a fashion as possible. What we've recognized coming off of the election in 2016 is that we needed to do a better job communicating where we stand, particularly on issues related to the economy, good paying jobs, strong economic growth to the American people in a clearer and more compelling fashion. Donald Trump, in many ways, hijacked economic populism from House Democrats and members of the Democratic Party. We want our populism back. Right. Why? Because he doesn't mean it, we do.
That's right. That's what, tell it, brother.
He talks the talk, we're going to walk the walk, but we've got to reestablish that connection with people all across the country, and we're working to do so.
Well, you all, could you tell the folks just a little bit about, how you came up with Better Deal? It's not just a slogan; it's a whole program. But you and Sherry and David Cicilline didn't just sit in a room and come up with it. You talk a little bit about the process you engaged in?
Well, that's correct. And a Better Deal is not a slogan. It's an action-oriented and aspirational agenda for the American people.
Right.
But it came from the membership. It was a member-driven process, working through all of what we call the gorgeous mosaic of House Democrats, because we represent America in its brilliant diversity.
Right.
The Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, the Asian and Pacific Islander Caucus, the Women's Caucus, the LGBT Equality Caucus, the Progressives, the New Dems, the Blue Dog. We have it all as House Democrats. That's part of our greatest strength. But we wanted to make sure that we pulled everybody in to a process where we could figure out where the common ground exists in terms of what we were going to focus on, and how do we speak with one voice, given the existential threat that exists coming from the chaos at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and the person who is temporarily occupying the Oval Office. Unity is incredibly important. You've been working very hard in that regard here at the DNC and doing a tremendous job.
Thanks.
We wanted to make sure we established that operational unity and can speak with one voice, and that's how we came up with the Better Deal agenda. Action-oriented, we're going to focus clearly on better jobs and better wages, and we're going to do as much as we can to deliver to the American people a better future, understanding that America needs higher pay, America needs lower costs, America needs and deserves the tools for the 21st century economy. Those are the three pillars in terms of our objectives, and we'll have a whole host of policy proposals that we're going to be discussing with the American people moving forward. This is the start of a conversation, the beginning of a conversation, not the end of a conversation with the American people.
Yeah, so I noticed, though, it's not just the House, though, right? I mean, you guys are engaging with, I saw Senator Schumer over there, Senator Klobuchar, who would have been with us tonight, but she had to vote in the Senate, but she was all set to be with us. You guys are really kind of have a House-Senate collaboration going on, which is a little new, isn't it?
Well, that's correct, and I think that was a particularly important part of the process for all of us. We began this journey as House Democrats. Senator Schumer and the members of the Senate Democratic Caucus began their journey over on the Senate side. And then a few weeks ago, we began to sort of have a discussion about how to bring the two processes together so that we could emerge with one clear agenda. The good thing is that both the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats felt in our heart and also understood, based on our engagement with people all across the country, that we needed to focus tightly on good-paying jobs and strong economic growth. And dealing with the rise of special interest power, the influence of corporate money, that essentially has rigged the system here in Washington, D.C. The American people understand that.
They know.
They know the economy is not working for them the way that it should. It's working for the wealthy and the well-off. They understand that things are broken here in Washington, D.C., and that they deserve a better deal. That's what Democrats are offering.
Yeah, man. And you know, one of the things I really liked is something that's been intriguing me. You know, if you want to go get a hamburger, probably 3 companies in the whole country are going to be able to produce it and put it on your plate. Chicken, 4. If you go get an ibuprofen tonight or some medicine, you're going to get it from Rite Aid, you're going to get it from CVS or Walgreens. 3. And if you, heaven forbid, if you just happen to be, you know, Hakeem's Pharmacy, because then you're going to be an independent on your own, and you're going to have a tough time. But also 3 internet service providers, or 4 airlines, and the American people, I think, have a sense that, like, man, those big guys are talking to them members of Congress, and they all getting it all worked out for themselves, not us. So when people say the economy is rigged, the whole game is rigged, I mean, people feeling that in their stomach. They feel that late at night, looking up at that ceiling.
That's absolutely correct. And we felt, as part of the Better Deal agenda, as we would say back home in Brooklyn, we have to keep it real.
Yeah.
And there's a serious reality that exists here in America that you just laid out, with the increasing rise of monopoly-like power, the concentration in the hands of a few of aspects of the economy that both could result in artificially suppressing worker wages as well as increasing consumer costs.
And small business people.
And jamming up small business folks, which should be the lifeblood of our economy. So part of the challenge has been, as these mergers have been allowed to go forward and this big company buys this big company or merges with each other, is that the standard has often been, okay, well, what's in the best interest of the investor class? Our view is, no, the standard should be what's in the best interest of the working class, of the middle class, of the consumer class, not the shareholder class. They're doing well. Their investments, since the moment when the stock market collapsed, have tripled, almost quadrupled.
They're doing all right.
In many instances. They're doing all right. But the American people, those who are in the middle class who aspire to be part of it, are struggling in ways that should not be allowed here in America because it's inconsistent with the great American dream.
You're talking about keeping costs down or cutting costs. It's tough to get an apartment in Brooklyn nowadays. Used to be, if you're in Manhattan, you can find a more affordable place in Brooklyn. That used to be the way it was, right?
That's correct.
Is it still that way?
It's very troubling now. I mean, we say there are 2 types of people in the world, those who live in Brooklyn and those who want to live in Brooklyn.
That's true.
Now, that's a good thing, right, in terms of the attractiveness of the borough, but it has its challenges. Success has its challenges, and the intensity of the socioeconomic gentrification is a major problem. I spent a lot of time as a state legislator fighting to promote, create, and preserve affordable housing for working families, middle-class folks, senior citizens, young people, many of whom are increasingly finding it difficult to be able to live in Brooklyn. Neighborhoods that were once affordable for working families and middle-class folks no longer are. And it's going to impact the diversity, the racial, the socioeconomic, the artistic, the cultural diversity, which has made Brooklyn what it is today, and we don't want to lose that.
But see, it's Brooklyn, but it's also Washington, D.C. It's also California, Los Angeles. It's also Minneapolis. My town, Midwestern town, the rents have been going through the roof, and we need to lower the cost of housing for Americans all over the country, including rural America. In rural America, it's, housing, affordable housing is a very tough thing. You put that together with transportation, and it just gets tough for everybody all over.
That's correct. And that's why, as I laid out before, when we talk about the Better Deal agenda, higher pay, lower costs, tools for the 21st century economy, if you look at that second plank, that umbrella of lower costs, we want to deal with housing costs, we want to deal with child care, we want to deal with the affordability of high-quality health care, and of course, we want to deal with the out-of-control costs of a college education that has, spiraled beyond reach for many people throughout this country. Not everyone has to go to a 4-year college, by the way. We're going to make sure that people have access to apprenticeships and job training, give them the tools that can allow them to go into either the technology economy or to help continue to build things as part of the transportation and infrastructure improvements that need to take place.
Yeah, man. So healthcare, right? you and I, we're members of the House of Representatives, and we have been. Have you voted for 50 or 60 against 50 or 60 repeal bills?
Absolutely. I mean, it's probably at least 50 that I voted against time and again. You know, our friends on the other side of the aisle have an unhealthy obsession with all things Barack Obama.
Yeah, man.
And it's been concentrated in large measure on the Affordable Care Act. I mean, some of these folks really do need clinical intervention. Like, at a certain point, you've got to get over the fact that he was elected and reelected and left America a better place.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can explain at this point why they continue to go down this rabbit hole to rip health care away from millions of Americans through legislation that's incredibly unpopular for good reason with the American people.
Where's it polling at now? Some ridiculously low. I saw as low as 17.
I mean, the only thing that may be more unpopular is Congress as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? The Republicans in particular, because of the American people recognizing they're not doing the business that they were sent here to do.
Now they got this skinny repeal thing. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I'm still actually struggling to fully comprehend and understand what's going on.
Well, see, here's the deal. They want to get rid of the individual mandate.
That's correct.
Which will mean that you're going to have all the healthy people leave the system, and that means the sick people are there, the expensive people are there. You're going to see premiums rise by 20%.
That's correct.
And then you're going to see 16 million people who want health care lose it. And it's going to be tough. They're going to cut the individual mandate, the employer mandate, the medical device tax, which is an important tax to help pay for the whole thing. Now, I'll just tell you this, Hakeem, I never really liked the medical device tax. I wanted a high-income surtax, but the Senate brought us back that thing, so that was part of it. And so at this point, man, this skinny repeal is going to jack premiums 20%. It is going to make it very expensive. And then what you're going to find is they're going to push things down to the state. So the state can say, well, we might give you a situation where you can be protected from pre-existing conditions, and we might not. And 133 million Americans have a pre-existing condition when you consider that they consider acne a pre-existing condition. They might consider bad eyesight, which I have, pre-existing condition.
That's correct.
I mean, it's crazy, but right now.
And prior to the Affordable Care Act, gender being a woman was a pre-existing condition. That's almost half the country.
Yeah,
right there.
I think it's
a little bit more.
A little bit more.
And so you're absolutely correct. We've gone from sort of initially it was repeal and replace,
right,
and then essentially the notion of repeal and displace, because 24 million, 23 million, over 30 million, clearly tens of millions of Americans going to be displaced by this Trump care, version 1, version 2, version 3, everything that they've tried to present. Then it was, repeal and retreat. We don't have the ability, we can't figure this out, even though for 7 years we've been talking about a replacement. We can't figure that out, so we're just going to repeal and then get out of town before sundown. That didn't work, and now they're on to, the skinny repeal. It's all a fraud and a disaster that they are trying to visit on the American people for the reasons that you laid out, which is why we're working so hard to stop it dead in its tracks. Now, can we strengthen the Affordable Care Act? Of course. Social Security was strengthened over the years. Medicare could be strengthened over the years. Any major piece of legislation.
Pharmaceutical drugs. There's a lot of things to do.
There's a lot of things that you can do. But the obsession with trying to strip away health care, with imposing this draconian age tax so that people between the age of 50 and 64 would have to pay perhaps up to 5 times as much.
That's right, man.
And costs on everybody in many instances. People with even employer-based health care are going to go up, premiums go up, co-pays go up, deductibles will go up, which is why we're fighting so hard to stop it in its tracks.
Now, we are in the minority in the House, the Senate, and we don't have the presidency. How have we been able to hold them off so far? Do you think that people's action has been an important part of this?
Well, the rise of civic engagement has been tremendous all across the country.
Everywhere.
And that's incredibly important. At the end of the day, Abraham Lincoln once made the observation, public sentiment is everything.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi talks about this a lot.
She does.
With it, you can do anything. Without it, you can almost do nothing in the context of government activity. And what has happened is that public sentiment has been against what House and Senate Republicans have been trying to do around the health care question. And that has been manifest in the town hall meeting, activism, and the turnout, and people reaching out and calling their members of Congress, calling their members of the United States Senate, and that makes a tremendous difference. And it's an important real-time lesson in how people rising up can really have an impact on the democratic process.
So you're a dad, you're a husband, you've been in state legislature. Let me just first ask you this. So school's coming up. What do you want to share with our kids, our college kids, our high school kids? You know, in a month we're going to be back in school again. What does the Better Deal offer our young people?
Well, one of the things we want to make sure is that for those who have aspirations to go to college or beyond, that we have to get the high cost of a college education completely under control. We have more than $1 trillion in collective student loan debt in this country. It's unacceptable. It strangles the ability of young people to come out of college and start a family, to be entrepreneurial, to take risks, to purchase a home, which is a part of the American dream and relates to that aspect that you talked about earlier of housing costs.
Sure.
And so we have to get that under control. We also need to do a better job of aligning what we teach in our schools at the elementary school level, the middle school level, the high school level, and even beyond, with the skills that employers are looking for, so that when people come out of high school in some instances, or community college in other instances, or after getting a 4-year college degree, they can be plugged right into the workforce in a good paying job. America has not done a good job of doing that over the last few decades. Things have not gotten better in terms of aligning skills and education with the jobs that are out there, and that's one of the things that the Better Deal agenda is going to focus on.
Does the Better Deal agenda want to help our union brothers and sisters out? Absolutely.
In fact, one of the reasons why the economy is not working the way that it should is because of the decline in unionization that has taken place over the last several decades, along with the rise of automation, the globalization of the economy, and then the rise of special interest money that pollutes our democratic system here in Washington. But you cannot evaluate why wages have remained stagnant without coming to the conclusion that it is in significant measure due to the significant decline of unionization that has occurred in America. I think less than 10% of the private sector workforce now in America is unionized.
And they're coming after the public sector.
And now they're coming after the public sector. And so we've got to stand shoulder to shoulder with them and stopping the assault. I'm the son of 2 public employees. Both of my parents were caseworkers and social workers, worked at the city and the state level. And I know I would not have had an opportunity to go on to college and subsequently to law school without that working class upbringing that was facilitated by my parents' membership as public employees in a union.
Now, I want to get some questions in here, but could you give us a few seconds on, Hakeem Jeffries? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm proud that I, was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
You feel pretty good about that Brooklyn thing, right?
Brooklyn's always in the house. But,
right.
Growing up in a very, diverse borough, it's primarily an African-American neighborhood in Crown Heights where I lived, but went to Midwood High School, which was pretty diverse, and now have the chance to represent a very diverse district. African-Americans, Caribbean Americans, Latinos, South Asians, the Orthodox Jewish community, Chinese Americans, Bangladeshi Americans. I actually represent more Russian-speaking Jewish immigrants from the former Soviet Union than any other member of Congress in the country.
Yeah. Well, you got to speak some Russian or something.
A little bit. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries, who knew?
Yeah, that's all right. That's great, man. So what do we got today?
We have a lot of questions today. The first one comes from Bruce on Twitter. who said, why is all the discussion focused on health insurance instead of health care? Why is nothing being done to lower the cost of prescription drugs, healthcare services, et cetera?
Not a bad question. What do you think? I mean, I got some ideas about prescription drugs. You want to jump in here?
I'll jump in briefly and then I'll kick it back to you. But part of the Better Deal agenda as it relates to lowering costs, we're going to take dead aim at the high cost of life-saving prescription drugs here in America, in part by making sure that we give Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices.
Right.
That's front and center in our agenda. And it is a scandal that Medicare does not have the opportunity to leverage its negotiating power for the benefit of the American people. And we're also going to go after price gougers who are intentionally...
Martin Scarelli, yeah, that guy.
Top on the list, intentionally jacking up the prices of, in many cases, life-saving drugs to line their own pockets. That's shameful.
Yeah, and so I definitely agree with you on that, Hakeem. I also think we need to consider drug importation, reimportation. I mean, these guys want to restrict. I mean, they say they're free market, but they want to restrict competition, right? And then the other thing is I think we need to look at patents. I mean, you know, Martin Scarelli purchased a patent for a drug called Daraprim, and this is a critical drug for people. And then he took it from about $13 a dosage to about $700 or $800. And the same thing with EpiPen, same thing with several other drugs. I think that the patent, I mean, this is a government conferred license to sell a product. I mean, it is why should we allow them to keep it if they're basically going to gouge the American people? We might need to look at some patent reform so that we can make patents do what they're supposed to do, which is to give enough of incentive for people to innovate and benefit from their inventions, but not so much of an incentive that they will gouge and cause just exorbitant prices for life-saving drugs. Next one.
Great. This one comes from Evelyn from North Carolina, who said, why are more Republican senators not separating themselves from Trump, Pence, and McConnell? Is it all about who contributed to their PACs to get them reelected?
Why are they, you know, I want to say that Senator Murkowski is broke from them. Senator Collins has told them where to go. There's been a few of them who have stepped away. Dean Heller, I think, didn't vote for this last version. We'll see. I'm glad to see there are at least 5 or 6 Republican senators who, you know, might not sell out their constituents. But I don't know. Any take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it has been troubling, particularly on the House side, that so many of our colleagues have put party ahead of country, particularly as it relates to the unfolding scandal and investigation connected to the possible collusion between members of the Trump campaign, if not the candidate himself, and Russian operatives and intelligence agents who clearly hacked into our democracy. Hopefully, the more that facts continue to emerge, we'll actually see some members of the Republican Party put country ahead of party and hold those responsible, if crimes were committed, accountable. That remains to be seen.
We'll see. Good
and
question.
I think we have time for one last question. This question comes from Emily on Twitter, who said, I would love to raise the minimum wage, but how would it affect small business owners, and wouldn't it mean fewer jobs?
You want to touch that one?
I'll touch it briefly, and then I'll kick it back to you. But as we believe aspirationally that a $15 minimum wage at the federal level is critical. We also understand that there may need to be a phase-in period that is established in ways that allow certain states to accommodate whatever dynamic may exist on the ground. But we have to confront head-on the notion that wages have remained stagnant largely for 40-plus years at the same time that the productivity of the American worker has increased by more than 285%. So the productivity gains of the American worker have not gone to the American worker. They've gone to the privileged few. And unless we speak directly to that issue by talking about both a living wage as well as raising the minimum wage, American workers are going to continue to fall behind. Yes, we have to support small businesses, and that's one of the reasons why we're talking about using the tax code to invest in small businesses, incentivize their well-being, as opposed to simply focusing, like my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, on using the tax code to provide massive tax cuts for the wealthy and the well-off.
Yeah, Hakeem, you're right. I mean, one of the best things you can do for a small business is break up these massive monopolies. Imagine you like a corner drugstore, and yet the Walmart comes in. What's that going to do to you? You're going to be in trouble. They can undersell you, right? And, you know, opening up more opportunities to sell, more sellers, more producers, and thinking about this idea of monopoly and how it's really gotten bad. That, I think, is the best thing we can do for small business. I'll just say this. In Minneapolis, we got a great pizza place called Punch Pizza. On their own, they raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. And you know what they found out? If people have money, they'll buy more pizza. So when we saw the minimum wage go up, actually, we saw consumer demand go up. There are not enough rich people to drive the American economy. There's just not enough of them. So, yeah, you know, you got a tiny group of people who can go buy as many boats and yachts as they want. But if General Motors only can sell a few units because no one person can drive more than one car at a time, then they go out of business. You've got to get hands in the hands of the working people. And we live in an economy where 63% of all Americans of any color, cannot handle an unexpected $500 bill. So you always hear folks say, well, what about small business? Well, you know, I'm happy to work with small business, delay the on-ramp, do what we need to do to help small business, but never let that be an excuse not to raise the minimum wage. The CEO of McDonald's makes $9,000 an hour. $9,000 an hour. So we're going to not pay workers who make the hamburgers $15 as a starting wage for the sake of small business, while McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and Walmart and everybody else is making goo gobs of money. If you look at the richest top 10 Americans, 5 of them are Waltons, yet their wages are super, super, super low. My point is, sure, we need to help small business. I'm there. But don't throw that up as a reason not to raise the minimum wage. So, hey, I think that we're about out of time. Hakeem Jeffries, any final comments, my friend?
Well, look, we're going to work as hard as we can to deliver to the American people a better deal, better jobs, better wages, and a better future.
That's right. And I just want to ask you guys, go to the doors, go to the people, and sell the program and talk to folks about how we do need better. We do deserve better. Not just better than what Trump's offering, but better than we've been getting over the last 50 years in terms of wages and costs and everything else. I'm proud of the work you, Sherry, and David Cicilline have done. Proud of the Senate. And you know what? If we work together, we can really, really change this whole economy around. Let me just remind everybody, 43367, resist, 43367, text resist. Also download the app, Knock 10, and we have got to make August big. And by the way, you got to call to protect our health care. We can win it if you help. And for myself, Chairman Tom Perez, and all the members of the DNC, and on behalf of Kevin Cavanaugh, thumbs up to you, Hakeem Jeffries. This has been another edition of Democrats Live. We will see you next time.